We are back here with the man, the myth, the legend, Darius A. Ross, dariusaross.com. Big entrepreneur, big real estate man. He's been predicting many things since we met back in 2021. And unfortunately, to our account as American citizens, many of the predictions have come true. Whether they've come true right away or a little bit down the road, he is not Nostradamus, but he is in some ways, I guess. But Darius, enough of that razzle dazzle BS. Thanks so much for always coming on and spreading the truth to myself and the viewers.
Good evening, Rob. How are you?
Good. You've woke me up back in 2021. I thought half of the time you were full of crap when you were talking about all these things of recession, depression, and everything else with the craziness. And it seems since 2021, as I said, you were pretty predictive on what went on and what is going on right now. Let's start off with the Trump tariffs. Obviously, Donald Trump did put a lot of tariffs in place. It seemed like he thought he was macho man, well, going against the whole world. And now it seems like he's stepping back. He still has tariffs on China, which started out very small. Now they're up to 84%. It looks like China is going to raise that even more. So we will see what happens on that end. But can you tell the viewers and the listeners to our broadcast what you believe is going to happen with these tariffs? Excuse me.
I'm going to come out and give major congratulations to Mr. Buffett and what he's been doing as far as maintaining a cash barrel on the side, as well as a lot of dry powder that pension funds and private equity has, because at Urban Oracle now, I'm going to be self-proclaimed. Chaos, calamity, crisis, and catastrophe is coming. Because what the administration does not understand, there is no need to negotiate with America anymore. At one point in time, being a superpower, that game has changed. And as a result, let's take a look. You back down. Now, anyone that has kids understands, if you tell a kid, don't do something, and you turn around and back up from it and you give them their toys back, guess what's going to happen? You got a problem. So now you have a problem. It took you 2 days to back down. You then say, well, everybody's coming here, and he says, kissing my ass. Well, I got one little problem for you. The Chinese are playing chess, not checkers. And as a result, if everything is made in China, you've got a problem. India, medication, you got a problem. Now what? So what people need to realize in this whole program, you are now playing economic apocalypse. There is no way that the administration can beat the world powers. It's impossible. The world's too small now. Everything is dependent upon places where you've gone to and exploited the labor. And now, having done that, these places now are financially secure in such a way where they have war chests of financial resources where they don't need to deal with America.
Well, the issue is, sorry to interject, Darius. The issue is, too, is that, again, you can bring some of these jobs back to America, but you can't bring the majority of them back because, Darius, we're not going to have sweatshops in Worcester, Massachusetts, making T-shirts and sneakers. I mean, it's totally abysmal. Americans are not going to pay $300 for a pair of sneakers made in America when they can pay 50, 60 bucks for some made in China, Vietnam. The list goes on and on. So this was a total farce from the beginning. This was a mistake by the American government going back to the 70s with Richard Nixon, with Henry Kissinger. And then obviously the catalyst of that was in the year 2000 when they allowed China into the WTO. Do you agree with that as well?
You see, let me give you a little thought there. Mr. Kissinger did something very unique for China. He was part of the buildup of China with Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. So what people have to understand is China actually was the backbone of America, because in putting the labor and the resources in China and putting the financial resources in China, that helped build America up to what it became to be after the fact. Meantime, the Chinese are very smart. They came here and they got educated. They went back to their countries and, respectively speaking, built their countries up. Now, here's the problem. I got bad news. Those jobs are never coming back. Those factories are never coming back. The administration, this administration, made the worstest choice ever. You turn around and you basically, I'll use the urban term, you pimp slap the world. And at the end of the day, it's not happening. They do not and will not tolerate it.
So, just to kind of look into the future, and it started, we could even go to the past where it started in COVID, where the supply chains really hit a problem due to, all these countries shutting down. Obviously, China has a lot of our medicine, a lot of our supplies in general, from cheap goods to goods that American citizens need every day, all day. And we saw that in COVID, and the supply chain really never got back to where it was supposed to be since COVID ended. Let's go a little deeper into that because with the tariffs still in play with China specifically, and President Trump not backing away from this, at least as of right now, China makes a lot of our goods. You go into the dollar store, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, the list goes on and on as far as these dollar stores, and they make all the goods there. If that becomes a supply chain crisis, it's not going to just affect the middle class with the tariffs and the goods going up. It's also going to hurt, rather, excuse me, the middle class because we're not going to have goods to buy at these stores. So Americans are going to have to spend even more money, or that stuff that's not even going to be there. I want you to dive a little deeper into this because it's a huge problem that no one's really specifically speaking about.
See, I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. That's not only going to hurt middle class America, that's going to hurt upper class America as well as wealthy America. Because a lot of the goods and services that are made on Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Rodeo Drive, as well as down in Worth and so forth in Palm Beach, are made in China, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India as well. So it's just not the factoring companies, right, are actually using the factoring positions to factor their goods and services back into America, which are still coming from foreign international powers. So the problem with all this is we're not going to see just part of America hit. And this is one of the reasons why last night, over the last few hours, it's still now the impact is still being felt. Market was down almost 2,000 points. Now, here's the trick. Someone got on the phone and said to the administration, we got a problem. We just lost from 49 almost thousand points down to 39,000 points. We lost trillions of dollars. Listen very carefully, trillions of dollars. For every 1 point, we're going to look at maybe $1 billion. So theoretically speaking, that's close to 50, 60 trillion dollars. I'm not even counting. That's just in the US. We're not talking about around the world. So when you look at the supply chain, how do you get that back when it's been screwed up before COVID? It's more messed up after COVID. There were ships sitting out in the ocean that were just sitting there with goods spoiled.
Now we've talked about this off air. We talked about how with the tariff issue still staying in play, it looks like America's ready to go into a war with Iran. There is a lot of infiltration with a war in the Middle East in general, and the U.S. has their nose right in the middle of it, whether it is Israel, whether it is with the Houthis, whether it is with Iran. Talk to the audience a little bit about that and how the tariffs are a catalyst to what is going to happen with this war in Iran, or even if it's not Iran specifically, in the Middle East in general.
See, right now, the issue of the hour becomes figuring out how to turn around and turn attention away from the economic issues, right? So let's face it for what it is. Unfortunately speaking, you have a situation where America has never recovered from the Afghan war, the Iraqi war. It never recovered from the Persian Gulf and so forth. So we're talking about still trillions and trillions of dollars of America's debt service that still have to be paid to bondholders. So you enter and engage into another war, you're financially bankrupt. That's one of the reasons why it's not good policy now. War is not good policy now. It makes good for manufacturers and those that are in those businesses, but it's not good business for the common consumer. Now, having said that, these tariffs position a situation like this. If you think about it, everything from 401ks to pensions to real estate, the government budget, consumer debt, cars, homes, international debt, as well as all these things that add up to an economic tsunami. So you can't afford a war. We're stretched too thin as it is.
Let's go a little bit into the stock market. The stock market lost many, many points. It's hard to even count or remember because it just keeps going down, down, down within the past few days. And it seems like, he took the tariffs off, stock market jumps back 2,000 points. Again, the tariffs are only off for certain countries, not China. China is the big problem right now that the U.S. is not really looking at as of now. Talk about that. I mean, it looks like, and I've asked a lot of other financial guys, such as yourself, about this issue, and they're telling me they agree with me that there is a stock market crash coming, and it is going to come sooner than later. Educate the audience on that, what your opinion is.
As I've been saying in your podcast before, we're going to see the stock market crash upwards of 50 to 80%. And this is consistent in history. Each time it crashes 20 or 30% greater than it crashed the last time. So I'm going to venture to say we're going to see the market go from that highest of 49,000 points down to between 3 and 8,000 points. A hell of a ride and a hell of a hit. Now, the problem with that is this: when we look at China, you've got 1.3 billion people in China. You also have almost 1 billion people in India. You have in Africa 3 or 4 billion people. I got bad news for the Americans. They don't have to trade with you anymore. The Mexican president said it best. Do you realize we make our own goods and services? So we don't need you. Keep in mind, here in America, you're laying off people in mass. For every one job that you kill 10 more jobs, because those people include everybody from the housekeeper to the person that makes your clothes, to the person at the grocery store, and on and on. So basically, right now in America, we have a problem with homelessness. We have a problem with unemployment. We have a problem with jobs that are not being filled. And last but not least, home services, household services, I mean. So human health services, that's a big issue. So all of a sudden, if you got all these people unemployed, they don't have jobs, they don't have the ability to buy the goods you want because they only get 9 months worth of services with unemployment. Guess what? You now have a country right now that's sitting on close to 100 million people that are unemployed. Now what?
And again, that goes into government services. The government is already bankrupt as it is. We have trade deficits. We are in a deficit in general. The Fed just keeps flooding the system with money. Eventually, the system is going to decapitate. I don't think this is very far-fetched what Darius has been saying. He's been pretty straight on the past 4 years. In general, at least on this program, can't speak for what he says on other programs, but specifically here. And I do want to thank him for always coming on. Again, Darius A. Ross, DariusARoss.com. I want to go a little deeper in the second part of the interview with this, Darius, because, I'm in Orlando right now. You go to Disney World, the place is, pretty packed. I wouldn't say it's extremely packed, but it's pretty packed. There's people spending money on $16 hamburgers and $40 t-shirts. There's also people on the main drag over here right near Disney. There's restaurants, whether they're chain restaurants, whether they're well-off restaurants, as far as that goes. They're packed to the gills every night. So again, we go to the tariff issue, which most Americans are worried about. We go to the issue with gas. We go to the issue with housing. We go to the issue with food and eggs, and the list goes on and on. And people are very concerned about this. We just heard you speak about that the unemployment crisis is here. It's here to stay. And that unemployment number where they say there's only 3% unemployed in the whole country, that's a fabricated number. Don't listen to that. Do your own research, as you should have done with COVID as well. Don't listen to the government. They're lying to you. Just to get back to the point, Darius, what is going on in places like Orlando where, again, everybody's out to eat? They're spending money. They're swiping that credit card like a kingdom come, and they're going to Disney paying $179 for a ticket for one day.
Let's take a look at this. Take a time to go around the country. Go into Los Angeles and look at the homeless crisis. Go into Chicago, Detroit, Miami even, New York. Here's the problem. If it was so easy, go by some of your local churches and see the food homeless lines.
Right.
These are lines of food around blocks. Now, let's take it a step further. If these people are unemployed and most of them did not have savings and they're living from paycheck to paycheck, what does that mean? And let's be conservative. Let's say that there is an unemployment ratio of, say, 6%. That's still 18 million people. That's 18 million people on top of this country that has 30 or 40 million jobs that are unoccupied, on top of the people that are now working at home or the people that have side hustles. These people are out of the economic economy. So now when you start thinking about these things that are going on, what's really happening here? when you look at Orlando, it's like a nuclear effect, right? If things were so good, those tariffs would still be on. That's the bottom line. It was beginning to hurt not just the powerful people, but it was beginning to hurt close to home. So you would see those $16 hamburgers, those lines would get shorter and shorter. Let's look at McDonald's. Let's look at Big Lots. Let's look at the dollar stores. Let's look at Family Dollar. Let's look at all these hotels that were doing wonderful, but now you're starting to see these things starting to cut back. So if things are so good, the department stores, the chain stores will not be shutting down.
Are there that many rich people in the country that they're flooding to go out to eat every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night? And these restaurants, again, they're packed. These are not all foreigners. Again, to be fair to everyone listening, there are foreigners down here, obviously, that are going out to eat and going to Disney, going to Universal, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, the list goes on and on. It's not the majority here that are foreigners doing this. So again, can we just kind of hit the nail on the head here that we believe that these are people just swiping credit cards, they can let the good times roll. We really don't give a shit in plain English, and we're just going to continue the process until the crap hits the fan and I got no money left. I'm going to have to give back the house, the keys to the house, the keys to the car, and whatever other big purchase, thing that I have to try to get some income back.
Let's go into that for a moment. Commercial real estate in crisis. Chicago, New York, Detroit, Los Angeles, Denver, and so forth. These are major buildings that are going up for auction. I mean, major towers that are being cut in half in price, okay? Major players that are now giving the keys back. Major players. I mean, there are some cases where the banks are suing the players to take the building back. The bank doesn't even want the building. They're like, no, you're not giving that to me. I'll take some of your other collateral, but I'm not taking what you don't want, okay? Now, you even have some, what do you want to call, Section 8 buildings or affordable income buildings. They don't want because they can't bring the income up fast enough. These guys were renegades and they bought these properties at the lowest prices. Consumer debt, $15 to $20 trillion of credit card debt and climbing. And the credit card companies are giving away money like it's water. Okay, cars, the foreclosures and I shouldn't say foreclosures, but the actual repossessions. They don't want to repossess the cars because it's going to create calamity. So some people are 3 or 4 months behind and they're just not taking it back yet. The homes, again, we're in a foreclosure crisis, but the banks aren't doing anything because there are so many regional banks that are sitting on a leg and a kickstand, just a matter of the right fuse to get lit, and this whole thing collapses. And there will be no such thing as too big to fail. There will be a bail-in because the depositor is going to be responsible for this.
I want to just end with the last 2 questions. Somebody middle class listening, somebody that's in their 20s and 30s listening, trying to navigate their way through this climate of uncertainty. Again, whether they have student loans or they don't, it is still uncertainty, whether it's, with jobs, with food, with housing. Again, we just stated that the list goes on and on. What advice would you give somebody that's trying to navigate through to make sure that they get through the next 10-ish years safe and sound instead of just calamity?
Let me do a couple of different points here. Brazil trades in its own currency, the real. Some Russian states now won't even accept the US dollar. They're focusing on trading amongst themselves. The African Union is beginning to trade amongst itself. Russia is trading with China and the BRICS, okay? Brazil, Russia, India, etc., etc. Now, even in the petroleum areas of the world, the Middle East, they're beginning to turn around and deal with every other country but America. So for a young person that is now walking into the world of work, prepare yourself. The next 3 years are going to be off the chain. Translation, there's going to be a nightmare of financial limitations. Do not be in debt. Do not be exposed to high credit cards. Do not be in a position where you can't afford to maintain just the basic essentials. And most importantly speaking, stay clear of anything that gets you tied down long term. Because we're looking at a crisis now that, from my predictions, I'm saying it's going to go at least 3 or 4 years. The bottom of it's going to be between now and 2027. And at the end of the day, when this administration is done, the impact of this administration will be lasting for decades. And people don't understand that once you destroy these departments, once you destroy these jobs, the impact is lasting for decades. Nobody really gets that. So the bottom line for young people and even boomers. First of all, for the boomers, they have to prepare themselves for what the 401k is going to look like. Because this is the trick to that. There's a lasting point. You're not going to turn around and lose all this money and then make it all back because you're now retiring. So if you just lost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, that was real money. You put that real money in. You can't take it out and you can't get it back. So now what? So the bottom line of it is, buckle up, folks. This is going to be a long one.
Darius A. Ross, DariusARoss.com. I do want to get into the books to finish off the interview, but last audience question. In the state of Florida, there's a lot of talk with Governor DeSantis and the leaders of the Senate and the House on two different bills. The governor is trying to push an elimination of property tax. We know that helps people that are older. We know that helps, obviously, people that are property owners where they don't have to pay a huge amount. There is an issue in Florida. Obviously, if there would be no property tax, there's no income tax. Where would the money come to supply state governments? There's also a proposition with leaving the property tax in play in Florida and getting the sales tax from 7% down to 5.2. If we're in the state of Florida, if, you are an economist, you talk to the governor, what would you tell the governor? Would you be rather in favor of his plan and pushing the property tax, kaput and go bye-bye? Or would you be in favor of the Senate and the House plan in the state of Florida to lower the sales tax from 7% to 5.2, which obviously would affect everybody, even if they're not a property owner in the state of Florida?
I would say neither, because if you're lowering the property tax, you have a situation where.
But they're not lowering it, Darius. They're getting rid of it, if that's the case.
No, I'm going to go a little different here, a little sideways. Okay. If you're lowering it, right, you're going to decrease services. Okay, and we've seen that in many parts of the country. If you eliminate it, the services are gone. Okay, because this is what your revenue generation comes from. In the same token, if you turn around and you start switching gears and changing things up, at somewhere along the line, it's like the tariffs. You got to raise the prices on something. So it's either going to go to goods and services, it's going to become a state tax, it's going to become something on the other side of the coin, which means that you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to pay with the schools, you're going to pay with municipal, you're going to pay somewhere. So you drop it on one end, you raise it on the other one. So what people don't understand in Florida, they're more retirees. I mean, the biggest part of the state is retirees, probably 60% is retirees. So they're happy, but everybody else that's younger ain't going to be happy because where the services are going to come from. And when the services start disappearing, fire shows become slower, police response becomes slower, if at all, and everything else from municipal and so forth for transportation becomes a problem.
What about the sales tax? Bring it down. We've seen through the Orlando Sentinel's reporting, which is the local paper down here, saying that in Orange County, which has obviously Universal, SeaWorld, and also Disney, along with many hotels, restaurants, the Orlando Magic, of course, Orlando Pride, Orlando Lions, the soccer team. With all those things, a lot of people coming to Orlando, they've taken in so much money due to the sales tax and, all these things of supplying that raise in income with the sales tax. Would you lower the sales tax? Do you think they should keep it the same as well, just to keep that money flow?
What's going to happen is if you want to see how things will change, just watch what happens when you raise the sales tax and watch how people stop coming. Because if you're dealing with tariffs, you're dealing with the price of goods and services going up, and now you're dealing with the sales tax for someplace people want to come to, they stop coming. Air traffic will stop. Road traffic will stop because people can't afford it. This is the problem. You can't keep pushing things out of hand. So on the one hand, you lower one thing, but then the restaurants and everything else start raising their prices. Doesn't work.
So you're saying, because my understanding is that if you get rid of the property tax and you raise the sales tax, to kind of even it out, somebody's still obviously going to get, hammered at the bottom line. The question is, the people that are the seniors and the people that are homeowners obviously are going to make out probably in the long run, than the people that are just renting. Even though if you are renting, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you are renting, you are still paying that property tax. It's obviously not as much because there's many units and they kind of even it out.
See, the
Okay.
problem with that is that wages, our
Yeah.
wages increasing. Okay, Florida is
No.
like some of the other parts of the South. It's right to work state. So
Yeah.
at any given moment, if you're only making $15, $16 an hour, let's say 18 at the highest, and then you're turning around paying, say, 6 or 7% of that toward goods and services, guess what? You're still behind the eight ball. So now you have a
Right.
permanent underclass again. So you're creating the same problem. What nobody really understands is you can't throw pricing off economics. You can't keep on raising taxes, not raise wages, and then the goods and services are steadily. It's like you're all over the place. Cost of housing is here, goods and services are here, wages are down here. It's not working.
There are some crises going to be solved. They could be solved, I should say, Darius, if they did one thing, and this is very, very easy, very low key thing. If they tax the Social Security over 168,000, a lot of things, money could be coming in. They refuse to do that. It'll never happen because the people that own our government are the people that are the powers that be. They don't want to pay that tax on the Social Security. So it's only getting taxed at that first 168,000. If you make more than that, you get away scot-free. And this is the way that these guys are getting away scot-free. So if you have a lot of money, you can get away scot-free. If you don't, you get shafted. If you're not making over $168,000, then you're going to get shafted. And that's just the way it is. And if they did tax that, Darius, call me out if I'm wrong. That money could go to a lot of programs and help a lot of different people.
There's only two problems with that: the voting bodies versus the lobbying bodies.
Right.
Those larger numbers are the lobbying bodies. They make sure that they maintain a certain consistency. The voting bodies vote, but the majority of the time they don't vote from the pocketbook. So that's the key statement right there.
Anyways, let's end on that, Darius. I do want you to tell the audience about the books that are going to be coming out. Give us the lowdown on that, please.
We have Leadership DNA. It's an anthology I've done talking about leadership, and I particularly speak about in one chapter about the adversity of dealing with leadership and being through adversity. That's called Leadership DNA. The new book that I have coming out now is another anthology. It's Success DNA, and talks about how to be successful and how you become successful as a leader. And my personal book is Triumph Over Tragedy. I talk about personal lifestyle issues and things that keep you sustained and maintaining from your mental and your physical illnesses, and appreciating yourself and climbing out of adversity and climbing through struggles and putting yourself on the right track and being a better individual. So that's Triumph Over Tragedy. So it's the TPS plan. It's timing, synchronicity, and precision.
And DariusARoss.com, obviously, as you can find more about Darius. Besides that, anywhere else people should look out for the book, get the book. Obviously, it's going to be on Amazon, but beyond that, any place else you want to see people go to for you?
They can go to Barnes and Noble. They can go to we got Apple, and then we have audio books will be coming out as well. And then they can also go to my new website, which is DariusWrites.com.
DariusWrites.com. Hey, Darius, what is the date for the book?
The two books now are coming out. Leadership DNA is already out. Success DNA comes out basically May 10th, and my own book comes out on June 10th.
All right. All right. Again, DariusWrites.com, DariusARoss.com. Darius, this will not be the last time. Always a pleasure having you on, and always a pleasure to talk to you in general, because you are a value of information, and you always tell the truth. A lot of people don't like to tell the truth. They try to sugarcoat it, but you know what they say, the truth hurts, and people are going to suck it up and get in the game. If you don't, you're going to be sitting on your ass and getting screwed hard if you're not already. So wake your ass up and let's get to business. Darius, thanks so much.
My pleasure, Robin. Appreciate it.